Hey everyone, Ion here, and today I'm going to show you how you can use Finic to speed up your KYB and KYC onboarding review and reduce funnel drop-off during onboarding. So the first thing we see here in the Finic dashboard is a list of customers that we are in the middle of reviewing. I'm going to click into an open case we have here where we're looking at a business called Lake Elsinore Casino. Here, I can see a comprehensive report on the business, the owners, and the communication between the Finic AI assistant and the customer. Now let's take a look at the report on the business. At the top here, I can see the self-attested information that the business has provided. And then below that, I can see all of the checks that I've configured to run on this business. These checks use external data sources such as the OFAC sanctions list, the company's website, or news articles to make sure that the business is not violating any AML or other regulations. So let's take a look at each of these checks. So the first check here is state registration. Finic has automatically visited the California Secretary of State website, taken a screenshot, and verified that the company, which is registered as Sahara Dunes Casino LP, is registered in California and is in good standing with the Franchise Tax Board. So this check passes. The second check is the proof of address step, where Finic automatically checks the bank statement that was uploaded by this business to make sure that the address on the bank statement matches the business address that was self-attested. And we can click into any of these data sources to view the actual source, in this case, the January bank statement, and we can verify that yes, the extracted address is the same as the self-attested address. Next up, we have the merchant category code, which Finic has extracted by visiting the business's website, and it has correctly figured out that the merchant category code in this case is 7995, which corresponds to betting, wagering, lottery, and gambling. Next up, we have adverse media. Now for this check, Finic will read a number of news articles about Lake Elsinore Hotel and Casino and see if any of them mention criminal activity. So in this case, Finic identified two different news articles, one from the Wall Street Journal and one from casino.org, that mentioned that this business was fined $900,000 by FinCEN for violating the Bank Secrecy Act. So as a result, Finic has marked this check as failed because clearly this business has been involved in some illegal behavior. Next, we have sanctions and watch lists, where Finic will check the OFAC sanctions list to make sure that the business is not listed on there. And in this case, all potential matches based on fuzzy matching were determined to be false positives, so this check passes. I've also configured a high-risk industries check and a high-risk countries check. Both of these are based on the company website. Finic visits the company website and scrapes it and checks it against a list of high-risk industries that I've previously defined and a list of high-risk countries that I've also defined. And the verdict is that this business is in a high-risk industry, but it does not do business with any high-risk countries. And this is all based on the company website. Last up, we have the incorporation documents check. And in this case, the application is actually missing these incorporation documents. And so Finic automatically follows up with the customer to gather these documents over email and phone. And we'll see what this looks like in the communication tab. Now, before we get into the communication tab, let's take a look at the report on the owners. Now, in addition to verifying the business, we also need to verify all of the beneficial owners of the business. And so in this tab, we can see a report of the beneficial owners, Chad Benson and Ted Kingston. And this report is fairly similar to the one that you saw before. We have a proof of address step where we look at Chad Benson's bank statement instead of business's bank statement. Similarly, we look at adverse media. And in this case, Finic has found that Chad Benson is associated with the Kingston Group, which has faced regulatory scrutiny and alleged fraud, which means that he's recommended for enhanced due diligence. So Finic has given us a warning for the adverse media check here. Sanctions and watch list, this is exactly the same as the previous step. Instead, we're just checking for Chad Benson on the list. And then the one last check is a bit different from our previous report. Here, we're checking the government ID to make sure that Chad Benson is a proper citizen. And we can click into the evidence as usual to verify that it looks legitimate and that the extracted information matches the self-attested information. Last up, let's take a look at the communication tab. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this application was missing some documents, and so Finic automatically sent an email to Chad Benson asking for the incorporation documents and mentioning that this is a required step of the application. Given that he didn't respond to this email, Finic also gave Chad a call the following day, and the transcript of this AI phone call is listed here where we can read it. And in this case, we can see that during this conversation, Chad Benson mentioned that he needed to get the incorporation documents from his lawyer, and it'll take him a couple of days to send over those documents. And so this way, Finic reduces drop-off in your funnel by regularly sending over reminders and calling up customers if needed.